of women. There are many other issues, and those that I have concentrated on have been the extension of maternity leave for women. Because the 3-month maternity leave for women is so limiting that it does not make it possible for women who want to give birth to give their all to the national development effort. And I insist that we should extend maternity leave at least, and I mean at least, to 6 months for women. Then there's the issue of the establishment of what do they say, creche, whatever they say, at workplaces. It's important to enhance the participation of women, and so on. Then this senseless decision to impose taxes on sanitary pads is something that can be addressed, and so on. There are so many other issues which can be addressed. But I'm happy that for the first time, you had a woman on the podium taking the oath of office as vice president. That by itself does not resolve all the problems. And I want to hope that this will be the first step towards the emancipation of women, towards the inclusion of women in the broad national development effort. Now, for those of us who watch the ceremony on television, on the screens and so on, we left off with the impression that it was a grand ceremony, that things went well and so on. But later on, listening to those who were on the ground, it does appear that there were some difficulties. Indeed, I spoke to a 75-year-old diplomat who told me that it was his worst day. Okay? And he said it was his worst day because of the arrangements of movement. They were asked to leave the grounds even before the president had finished delivering his speech. So they couldn't see what was happening. And we were asked to move from the grounds to the conference center, the Accra International Conference Center. Some of them did not have access to the bus. So these diplomats, fully dressed in their suit and tie and so on, walked all the way to the Accra International Conference Center. I mean, it was so discomforting for them. Initially, arrangements have been made for all the ambassadors and so on to go on a bus. For those who were on the ground, some of them saw some ambassadors coming in their cars and altering the situation and so on. All those things were problematic. Now, Solo is not the only person who has expressed concern about His Excellency, the President of Burkina Faso, carrying his sad arm. I've heard it many times. I find absolutely nothing wrong with that. Indeed, as a matter of fact, we should see it as a display of a very high level of confidence and comradeship among the two heads of state. If the head of state of Ghana is comfortable with his colleague, carrying his side arm in his presence and so on, what does that mean? Can you imagine the level of confidence that exists between the two of them? And I've seen all the videos. The level of confidence, brotherliness and so on, between, Ibrahim Traore and John Dramani Mahama is extraordinary. And that's the kind of thing we saw between Nkrumah and Ahmed Sekuturi and Modibo Keita and others. I mean, I saw them at a place I thought it might be the president's house. My goodness, I was so heavily impressed. This is what we must commend. In any case, no president anywhere in the world goes anywhere without weapons. No president. It doesn't happen. No president. Indeed, those who are complaining about Ibrahim Traore carrying his sidearm, did they see the visit of American presidents to Ghana? That's when they didn't complain. American presidents came to Ghana. Their security drove away the Ghanaian security completely. They took over everything, including the protection of our own president. And that one, you didn't complain because it's American president. I mean, look, this deliberate bias against us because we are Africans ought to stop. If American president can come and behave the way they behave with their security, this is nothing. And I think we should put it aside. The most important thing is the statements which have been made by President John Dramani Mahama consistently before, during, and after his inauguration. And that statement is very simple. It says, look, we in West Africa are the same people. And indeed, we are the same people. And he talks about the fact that people in Burkina Faso and in Ghana speak the same language, they have the same culture, and so on. In fact, if you go along the borders, whether it's La Côte d'Ivoire, Togo, or Burkina Faso, the people there don't recognize these artificially created borders. They move in and out as if there's no border. You understand? So that is the spirit which should lead us on. And this recklessness of some ECOWAS leaders in attempting to subvert Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger should not be tolerated by we the citizens. Why? They met and decided to take $20 million. The insult of it, $20 million from France to go and wage war on Niger, to take Ghanaian soldiers, Nigerian soldiers, and others to Niger to go and die. $20 million. Can you imagine? This is what we should be condemning. Now there's a new atmosphere which may lead, and I say may lead to the resolution of the conflict between ECOWAS and the Alliance of Sahel States. Even if it doesn't lead to the resolution of that conflict, it provides a basis for developing a working relationship with the Alliance of Sahel States. And I'm happy, about that. I'm extremely happy about this development, which manifested, at the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama. I'm so very happy that this development has manifested there. Yes, it is true there was a very large number of dignitaries from all over Africa and the world at that place. I cannot say for sure that this is the first time. I cannot. One, at independence, not so many African countries were independent and therefore could not send representations. But even the National Liberation Movement did send a lot. So,
the Fourth Republic. That was the
okay.
Under the Fourth Republic.
Okay, no problem. I have even an issue with the Fourth Republic, but we can ignore that. You understand? So I'm not so sure that this is true. You understand? But be that as it may, it was an impressive turnout of all sorts, and I mean all sorts of leaders. Extreme right-wing leaders, dictators, people with democratic pretensions, and so on. Everybody was there. Okay? To some extent, that is pretty confusing, because you cannot use the attendance to judge the direction of the new head of state. Okay? But in another vein, it may look impressive to the extent that he's able to deal with all these different people with different persuasions and so on. It may, some say, be a good omen for the new Africa that all of us aspire to construct. But it is interesting that strange people, with strange relationships and so on, all trooped to the Independence Square, for this obviously grand inauguration of President John, Dramani Mahama. One of the questions which has been asked, and I'm sure all of you have heard that, is why the choice of Tinubu, the Nigerian head of state, as special guest of honor. And I've heard so many answers. One of the answers simply is that he's president of ECOWAS, and that immediately entitles him to be guest of honor. Well, what can I say? Can't say much, if that is the reason. You understand? But it was brought in as a symbol of something. What is that symbol? Because Nigeria is in a far deeper economic mess than Ghana is now. There have been issues about his own democratic credentials which have not been resolved. There are issues even about who he says he is. We still don't know. We still don't know. Randy, you are here. Dr. Randy Abe is in the studio. Randy, I don't know how we can make you say hello to our viewers and listeners, but you are here. Welcome, Randy. Maybe you can come to the camera and just give us a wave. Now that you have decided to abandon media work and so on, we are very, very happy to have you here, Randy. Yes, And as a matter of fact, for those of you who do not remember, Randy was very, very instrumental in the development of Alhaji And Alhaji. One of the very first people, And I would beg him, I would urge him
to start.
That we appreciate that he's going on retirement. But Randy, find one day and come on Alhaji And Alhaji as a panelist, so that we can close this business.
He has retired as a host.
He has retired as
Great. Anyway, so that's the point I was making. I mean, what does Tinubu symbolize and so on? But that is not a major issue again. It's just that it's being raised over and over again. And it's important to speak to all the issues, which are being raised over and over again. Now, I know as a fact that not all those who wanted to be at the inauguration were able to come. Because of the arrangement, the transitional arrangement, who was responsible for the invitation and so on. I know as a fact that the president of Algeria really wanted to come and participate in this ceremony. His invitation was sent to him a few days, maybe a few hours before the inauguration, and that made it impossible for him to come. I'm also very keenly aware of other heads of states who wanted to come. But because they got the invitation sometimes 24 hours before the inauguration, it was impossible for them to come. I don't want to believe that somebody deliberately delayed the invitation of others to keep them out. I don't want to believe that. Even though that suggestion is being made very strongly, that there are some heads of states whose invitations may have been deliberately delayed and so on. And that fits also into a topic that we'll be discussing much later. And it's a question of the suspension of relations with the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. May that be the reason why the president of Algeria was not given sufficient notice for him to come? May that be the reason? I don't know. Whatever it is, the inauguration is over. The pomp, the pageantry, all of that is over. And it's important for us to get back to work. And there are indications that we are getting back to work. I mean, yesterday, I saw this released from the presidency asking the Inspector General of Police to investigate election-related killings. And I was so very happy. It's an issue we have all raised over and over again. It's refreshing to think that those who commit murder would not be allowed to get away. But me, I cannot agree with what we are saying about dismissing the hierarchy of the police. On what basis? You don't understand the police institution? The police is a regimented organization. Can you envisage the situation where today President Muhammad gives orders to the police and the police say, no, we will not take your orders? That would amount to mutiny. Yeah. Can you imagine a situation where the police is investigating a matter and even the Minister of Interior shows discomfort about it as well? So what we need to do is to constantly insist and make sure that we elect leaders who are accountable. We elect leaders who will not abuse the police service. We elect leaders who will not abuse the military and so on. Because if you don't do that, and you have Bukasas and so on as leaders, your police cannot function. And if the police cannot function, it is not because the police has bad leaders. It is simply because this system does not work. That is why I pay particular serious attention to the suggestions which were made by ACP Agozo before he was arrested for this Cutlass coup and so on. You know, he had made recommendations about how to decouple the police from central political authority. We should pay some attention to that. Because for as long as the president or the vice president is chairman of the police council, for as long as the president continues to appoint inspector general of police, for as long as that chain of command, you know, and I mean effective chain of command, has a political authority sitting at the top, you cannot expect the police to perform its duties the way you expect. And if they don't, you don't blame the police hierarchy. You blame the system which makes them powerless and so on. I am impressed, and I'm genuinely impressed by the performance of our police. Look at the two by-elections before the general elections. Look at how those elections were conducted. The Sequestration constituency. If it hadn't been for the police, that result could not have been achieved. You understand? To the extent that political activists and even some wayward police officers and so on started planning to change the police hierarchy before elections because it was a danger to the ambitions of one political party and so on. We should take note of that. And we should commend the current police leadership for an excellent job. And I say this with all sincerity. Even this election, the calm and peace and so on. I mean, I don't know, maybe Mutala would know, but for those who have access to intelligence reports, it's a miracle that this election turned out the way it turned out. You understand? If you knew what was at stake before and even immediately after the elections and so on. And that is why sometimes, even though I'm uncomfortable with all these statements about Bawumia being a sportsman and having considered defeat and so on, sometimes it makes me a little uncomfortable. Okay. But I allow it to go. Because if Dr. Bawumia had not considered defeat at the time that he did and so on, I don't know what would have happened based on the intelligence which is available. You understand? So he had no option. He had lost the elections.
And it was like overwhelming.
He had lost the elections. He had no option. I mean, it's not as if to say that if you lose election, you can say that you haven't lost and so on. If you've lost, you lost. You have to go. You understand? So he did what was expected for everybody who has lost elections. But based on the intelligence available, it is clear that if he hadn't done what he did at the time that he did, there could have been some other consequences, you know, which may not have been, you know. About the speech itself, the speech that the president made. That was not the speech of a Fidel Castro. Okay. That certainly was not the speech of a Sekou Touré. It was not the speech of an Nkrumah. It was not even the speech of a Nelson Mandela and so on. Nonetheless, it was witty. Okay, it was witty. And I've heard many people, including some of the panelists here, say that at least there was no plagiarism. My goodness. But look, that's an indication of how low we have sunk. If we are assessing presidential speeches and we are happy that they were not plagiarized, and because they were not plagiarized, they are good. What level is that? What depth have we sunk to?
Because of our history.
I mean, that's sinking too low. Yeah. Presidential addresses should inspire hope. You know, presidential addresses should give us confidence. presidential addresses should unite us. Presidential addresses should be about dreams of our people, dreams of our forebears, dreams about a new nation and so on. Presidential addresses should move us to action to resolve the concrete problems which confront us and so on. Not being plagiarized, I think is a very low standard, and we should move away from that. There are many issues which arise out of this inauguration, and I'm sure that we'll have the opportunity to discuss them. And now that Dr. Randy Abbey has committed to coming to the studio next week, I think SENA and his team should make the arrangements to make that possible. Yes.
SENA, there's this point, just the directive given by His Excellency the President. He was not saying that the police should investigate the matter, that they should submit to him a report of the investigation. So it's possible that they have done some investigation to the matter of the killings of those young men in the 2020 elections and then the subsequent elections. So I think that point should be made very clear. The impression should not be created as if the police haven't done any work as far as those killings were concerned. But he just wants them to furnish him with the report of how far they have gone with the investigation. It's possible investigation could be done, but the political will to act upon the investigation is what is missing. It's possible.
But if you read
I fully agree with you, because I know for a fact, and I know this for a fact, that Ahmed Swali, his assassination, has been fully investigated by the police. Okay. I know that the police did an excellent work on the assassination of Ahmed Swali. The problem has been a gap between the investigation and action. Now, for those of us who sit in the public, who are not privy to what happens in the police service, our conclusion is that the matter has not even been investigated and so on. What President Mahama has done is to empower the police to go back to their files and so on, to begin to conclude the processes that the police has already started. I think, look, we should be fair to this police service. You remember that chap who was killed, the police chap who was doing taekwondo and others with the police as well?
Is it Rambo?
Yes.
Ninja.
Whose body was actually buried in an uncompleted house and so on. The police, within a matter of weeks, were able to investigate to find the killers. This Ghana police, the Achia Mensah case, that's history, was able to investigate and establish the killers of Achia Mensah and so on. The police has a record, an impeccable record of achievement. And the Ghana Police Service has some of the best investigators in the world. I mean, the former IGP, Apiaji, is one, Apietu, thank you, boss. Apietu, look at his record. An excellent forensic investigator and so on. I mean, you look at somebody like Kofi Boakye and his record. So we have the men, and we have the facilities to carry out investigations if we do not have political interference, you know. So we should be soft on the police service. I don't know if any of us were IGP or deputy IGP or whatever, we could have done better than what these people have done, given the kind of political pressure that the police has come under over the years.
But isn't it a bad culture?
I'm even coming because the point is that I am yet to hear from any IGP make the points that they have always been pressured. The current IGP has not come out to tell us that he is always under pressure from the presidency. So
but then he says that he has to leave office.
No, then
Yes,
you have to, because the point is that you are there to maintain law and order.
So that is the point. That is the point SENA was making. If you look at our constitutional arrangement, based on the statement that was made by the gentleman who is now being prosecuted for, if you look at the structure, it's virtually tied the hands of those, you know, security forces at the expense of the appointing authority. It's like the loyalty is not to the state, but the loyalty must be to the appointing authority.
That's not what the Constitution says.
Now I'm saying that
the Constitution is so clear.
We would accept.
The Constitution is so clear.
Solo and me. You see, sometimes when we are taking public positions, we need to ask ourselves questions.
Yes.
ACP Agbolo came out boldly and criticized this current arrangement.
Yes.
And said it does not make for good policing.
Yes.
Look at what he went through. How many of you stood up in solidarity with him?
You see,
look at the pain he and his family had to go through and so on. So we sit here and say, why? They should defy authority. Defy authority, would you feed his family? Defy authority. When we drag him before the court, would you be with him? So don't let us behave like that.
No, the point must also be made that you don't go and take a position that you are expected to do A, B, C, D and refuse to do that and come and tell us that because we are pressured.
So look, they are
not expected to do A, B, C.
Yes.
The constitution by its very nature makes them subordinate to political authority.
No, but they also enjoy some level of independence.
From where? Read it from the constitution.
Then the constitution doesn't say that.
Read it from the constitution. Why the police service enjoys independence?
Why is it, if granted that they enjoy some level of independence, why is it that it takes the vice president to chair a committee where the security, or even the president, if you talk about the military and then the police and other security, forces, that the one who chairs the committee must be a politician? Why is it so? It is the constitution that guarantees that. Why is it that the RECSEC?
We have no business whatsoever accusing the electoral commission, because then the electoral commissioner is appointed by the president and so must be kowtowing to the dictates of the president. I mean, we cannot be. All these are appointments that are made by the president.
So it's not an appointment.
It's not only by appointment. The electoral commission, for example, can lay a constitutional instrument which becomes law before parliament. Without reference to the attorney general, without reference to president and so on. Can the police do that?
But that still doesn't take the fact that he or she is appointed by the president.
You can't compare the two. You can't compare the electoral.
They should be working and stop that there is pressure from here or there. That what has to happen.
You want people to do things that you are not ready to do.
They should put me there. They should put me there. They should put me there.
Think that the IGP should sacrifice the
but Mr. Pratt, in one breath, in one breath, they did so well during the by-election at Ascent.
So if you contest this, even the general elections, I can tell you, Tamale Central, but for the professionalism of the police service, things would have happened in a way that would.
Thank you. We have to bring it to conclude on this particular topic. Anyway, it's nice to see Dr. Randy Abe. In fact, if I had my former mic, there's no better time to have you on a panel than this time. But unfortunately, I don't have my former mic. Anyway, but we hope to see you. We hope to see you soon. And well, we have to move on to other discussions. But before we do that, let me just go through. Let me first say a big thank you to the radio stations that are currently tuning to us live. They are broadcasting us live for their listeners to listen. Shine FM in Akachi 96.9, Hills FM in Adakulu 91.7, Nyawase Radio in Ketekrachi on 89.7, Stella Radio Dabala 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale is on 93.7, Doha Radio in Yendi is on 106.5, Radio Kitao in Saboba on 95.7, Benya FM Elmina 105.7, Global FM in Ho is on 105.1, Zeps FM in Zebila on 95.9, True FM 92.5 in Ade, Solamara FM 89.1 in Tripoli. There's Boem 88.7 FM in Jessica and Lukusi 96.1 in Bengolokwati, Tyne FM 90.9. There is Sekbele FM 104.3, Akpini Radio in Kwando, Denyigba Radio 90.9 FM, NOT Radio in Dambai. Big thank you to all of you for giving us your platform. Don't forget this show is live on Pan-African Television, live on Radio Gold, live on social media, on the pages of Pan-African Television. First, let me do just on the matter of, in fact, the matter of the sidearms. I think a few things came up when Traore came. People were raising questions about whether a junta leader should have been invited in the first place. And there's a security analyst who who does a job of trying to explain out. But I will just read a point on a sidearm issue. Is that on the question of whether Captain Ibrahim Traore breached any security protocols, I must state with authority that he did not. The Ghanaian public should understand that the absence of any objection or intervention from the close security team of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, including his bodyguards, indicate that Captain Traore adhered to the established rules, procedures, and practices designed to ensure safety, confidentiality, and order. This compliance would have been evident to all security personnel present, including those strategically positioned at key points. The seamless coordination among the security team underscores that Captain Traore's actions aligned with the protocols agreed upon for the event. But this also came up when we were doing the Gold Morning conversation on Radio Gold a few days back, and there's a military man who responded. In fact, he serves even in the U.S. Army. He says, SENA in security, threat equals intent plus capability. He can have the capacity, that's the possession of the arm. But if no intent, he does not pose a threat. Likewise, if there is intent, but it doesn't have the capability, no threats. So that was his contribution. Just a few comments, then we'll move on to the next discussion. This from Asanko in Santa Maria. May I know from the leadership of the super micro minority in Parliament whether it is no more spiritually dangerous to sit on a minority seat in Parliament? Per the diabolical conduct of this UP MPP over the years, can they claim to have the interests of this country at heart? Can they tell us what they had done over the years that had benefited this country or that has contributed to peace in the country? Thank you for that comment. A few more. There's a lot of hellos and good morning to me. Good morning to you too. There's Togbe Charlie from Tema. Sana, please. Okay. Thank you very much. There's this one says, Sana, there are thousands of positives. From Sinet, who says, Sana, there are thousands of positives we can point at during the inauguration. But what is wrong is wrong. And I don't think we should try and justify the gun matter because of the position of the personality involved. It was a disturbing thing to behold, and I think our authorities could have handled it better, keeping it from the eyes and judgmental minds of the Ghanaian public and those far from us. I have seen a comparison of him with Putin with gun without Putin without a gun by his side. Our mindset and the way we see things are different, but let us not justify this and repeat it tomorrow as a country. What we must focus on is how to be taken serious and others obeying our wishes, even if it's USA or Burkina Faso. Thank you. Snet sent that one. Thank you. There's Yakubu from Tema, who is also joining us. What I have to say is Ghana can build itself if we first do away with foreign military base in Ghana. We have to learn from Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. At the moment, we did not vote for NDC. We voted for Ghana. So whether it's NDC or MPP, for now, it is Ghana we are working for. Yakubu, thank you for that comment. There's this one from Alines Peki Jack. It says, the irony of an IGP. This IGP's tenure saw NDC winning Jechikwesin's seat in a by-election as well as this general election. But many NDC commentators, etc., want him out. What an irony. Thank you for the comment. Good morning. Sena, I sometimes wonder how MPP takes Ghanaians for granted. Look at the Free Senior High School and the energy sector crisis just few days after they left office. I'm a Kwama from Christian from Odomi. Thank you for sending in those comments. Let me go to a few more. This one, Solomon, also needs to be promoted due to positive contribution in Alhaji and Alhaji, and also the president's not looking on the prescription and delivery. Was not looking on the. No, actually, he was actually using a prompter, and I think that thing came up.
No, Mr. Pratt is the director of Pan Africa. What a position!
You the receiver of the.
No, I have to thank you.
There's Alhaji Yafusede who says, I think most of those who are blaming the security of Ghana for allowing the leader of Burkina carrying his gun closer to the president are very young, and I want to let them know that Thomas Sankara was always in Ghana with his troops and even organizes military exercises in Ghana. That is Rawlings's time within late 1980s and 1990s before he was overthrown by his own man.
And he always carried his gun.
Yeah.
Had that. See the photographs.
Yeah. But he didn't carry this gun when he went to Russia. when he met Putin.
So,
Sami?
I was there when Tuari came to the Russia-Africa summit. I was in the room.
With
I
Putin.
wasn't an outsider. His people carried the weapons all the way into the room. He's a head of state, for God's sake, he's a head of state.
His people.
yeah.
Now, why do you even think that he could come here, be invited for the inauguration of John Dramani Mahama, and he will shoot John Dramani Mahama?
Hey,
What makes you think that?
Why wouldn't I think that?
You see, in any case, let's
You see,
understand.
in Russia, he didn't put the sidebar on.
No, but,
His people had
but
it.
it's important. It's important to put this in context. We should not underestimate the relationship between President Tuari and the outgoing president. And man, you are indicated that the organization of the swearing in was not done exclusive of the incoming government. To a very large extent, the security arrangement and everything were done by the outgoing government, who demonstrated a hostile posture against the president of Burkina. So under that circumstance, even though it was a new president who was being sworn in, but he was well aware that the security arrangement were all done by a president who has shown hostile attitude towards him publicly.
So he
That
was
was
invited by.
so I'm saying
he
that
was invited by
is that like when you
the-
want to sleep in the compound of your enemy, you must sleep with one eye open. And I guess precisely that's what he did. And in any case, to allow him to hold the gun, I believe that the security agencies and arrangement, if they never approved that, he wouldn't have done that. Who approved that?
Well, thank you.
But
Thank you, comrade.
you see, I mean, I
finally.
hope this will be
Yeah.
the final comment.
Finally.
Listen, all of you who are talking about democracy and military rulers and so on, this president, young 35-year-old military man, got the loudest applause at the Black Star Square.
Yes.
His popularity
Yes.
in West Africa and the world is beyond doubt. If you like, let's organize West African elections and pitch him against any of the so-called democratically elected presidents, see who will win the election. What is this fixation about?
We are yet to do that.
I am telling you for sure.
And there have been several
Tuari is
attempts
more
to
popular
his life.
than any.
But
Would
popularity
it-
does
would
not
it-
translate
Yeah.
into winning an election.
Thank
Either
you.
than Lumumba
Thank you.
would have won an
Thank
election in Kenya. It doesn't translate.
Who told you that?
Popularity, Atayi was popular than President before in this country. But Atayi wouldn't, absolutely. So it is not automatic that being popular will lead you
I think
to
we have to move
He
on.
was just being
we have
notorious.
another one to go. And we have two topics.
Which one is not
Even if those threats,
Yes.
even if those threats
we
exist,
must not
we
encourage
shouldn't also doubt the competence of our security agencies.
Okay.
That even on that day, without our eyes seeing, there were snipers around. It's something I did not want to mention on open, but I don't see, with all the level of dignitaries around, that there wouldn't be snipers around. So even if an attempt was made, right, I mean, the attempt will be neutralized before it may cause any harm.
You also agree with me that
Thank you.
all the
Thank you.
Pushing
Thank
this
you.
into
Let's leave it there. In fact, sitting in front of Solo is a daily graphic.
Tuari is not a madman.
Mr. Brother,
Front page, you
see, I'm not stretching it.
energy crisis looms, and that's our very next discussion.
You are discussing.
Because already we are raising the issue of power, electricity supply. Is the first thing that confronts the incoming government. Aside there also the matter of feeding in the senior high school, but the very first thing that they are dealing with is the issue of power, ensuring that the lights stay on. So we're going back. That power crisis ahead. That's a question we're raising, and what urgently needs to be done to deal with it. I will start once again with Comrade Ibrahim Muntala Mohammed on that.
First and foremost, I think that for me, everything any government does or any political party does, to a very large extent, must be influenced by suspicion and perception sometimes. We have had people who have said through social media, long before the handing over ceremony was done, that the agenda of the MPP government or the outgoing government at the time was to plunge this nation into doom. So those statements, and you might have heard, some even said it on radio and on TV. As to what information they had, we do not know. But I guess that those statements were informed by the impending challenges that confronted us as a state. So let no one be deceived into thinking that this was just by some accident. It was deliberately occasioned by the outgoing government to subject this country into such challenges. And I say this because the government long knew that for them to even go in for acquisition of oil or acquisition of oil for the purposes of powering, our machines to provide us with the necessary electricity takes about 21 days. So everything you do, you need to have some plan. They never did that. They left us with crude that only lasts 5 hours. Even though the argument is that in some aspects you have about 21 hours, but in most of them just 5 hours. The question is that if they knew that this was not going to be enough, why didn't they request for same? Because I've heard the argument that because Parliament refused to allow the government to present a budget. Yesterday I had one MPP communicator. They brought those things in Parliament and Parliament refused to do that. That was completely misleading. It had nothing to do with acquisition. This thing would have been factored into the budget for last year. That at this particular point in time, in their planning, between this period to this period, this is what we are going to request. Be it as it may, assuming without admitting that Parliament even refused to do what they were expecting Parliament to do, you come to Parliament with some conditions, telling Parliament that if you want us to present a budget for the purposes of taking care of the first quarter of 2025, you need to also agree to approve the judges who were appointed and whose vetting was done by the Committee of Parliament. You also need to agree to give government the go-ahead to give those tax exemptions of hundreds of millions of dollars to entities that clearly have some relationship with the president and the then government. And Parliament said we're not going to do that. That we're not going to do that because those exemptions were unacceptable. You cannot be going in for a loan of about $150 million when you are giving tax exemptions to companies amounting to over $300 million. It never made any sense to anybody. Now, so you realize that they are now desperately tying the challenges that are confronting us, assuming without admitting that that was even the reason. They never requested for the needed crude to take care of the machines to give us the necessary energy. So it was deliberately done. Let no one be deceived into thinking that it was just by accident. It had nothing to do with Parliament refusal to do what they wanted us to do in Parliament. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the fact that they wanted to saddle this government with this challenge. Because mind you, Dumso was used largely in the 2016 elections. Even though the NDC found solution to Dumso, by August 2016, we never had Dumso. We went into the elections in 2016 without Dumso. To the extent that Dr. Bawumia himself admitted that President Mahama found solution for Dumso. So what? That it was his responsibility. Yet, in the elections for 2020, they used Dumso, knowing very well that they never solved Dumso. They said that they came and solved Dumso when the facts were pointing to something completely different. So in order to remind the people of this country about Dumso, they deliberately did that to settle this government. On the issue of the schools and then the fact that they didn't have enough food, some of them have resumed, they don't have food. It was clear that government wanted that too. For a point, one wonder whether the MPP government at the time knew they were losing elections. Because 1 month after the election, between the elections and the swearing in, one whole month, if they had made the request for the necessary crude and also feeding for those schools, we wouldn't have had the problems we have. But you see, like President Mahama said, he's not elected to lament. He's elected to find solutions to the problems. I'm aware that even before the swearing in was done, President Mahama had taken some bold steps to ensure that we are not saddled with the challenge we are saddled with. Apart from the committee which was set up, which was publicly announced, I am well aware some of the measures and the steps President Mahama took to ensure that we don't have the problems. And thank God, we haven't had them, so and I don't think we'd have any doom so. Look, I also listened to MPP communicators who argue that no, that the NDC, their argument prior to, during the Dumso, was that it had nothing to do with capacity, that it was about financing. And now you came into power, they are now saying that yes, they maintain that it had nothing to do with capacity because the NDC's argument was that it was capacity. What have they added to our generational capacity in this country? They haven't added anything. So look, I think that there should be some investigation in this matter. If it is established that it was deliberately done, I think that there should be some consequences. Because the President Mahama's assurances of the people of this country that he's going to run a transparent and accountable government, and those who engage in acts ought to be accounting to the people of this country, is not only limited to financial accountability. Even conduct to the extent that those conducts were done deliberately to ensure that this country goes through a pain. I think that such investigation ought to be done. And I would urge that there should be some investigation into the matter. If you are a public servant or a civil servant, you have a moral duty and a responsibility to work for the state. If you allow yourself to be used by any political appointee or political elite to do something that will have dire consequences of this country, you must be made to pay for that. Because the energy crisis affects, in fact, even with the perception and the thinking that we may experience some of these challenges, would have affected planning of industries and businesses. It would have affected. For all you know, someone was sitting down thinking that, okay, we may experience Jumso. Do I need to buy a new plant? Maybe the monies he would have invested into the business, he use it to buy a plant because there is a signal that they may be doing so. But for the speed with which His Excellency the President intervened, I think that was the agenda of this government. And I would urge that some investigation should be done in this matter. And those who occasion that should not be left to go scot-free.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade. There's a few more comments from our earlier discussion. This one is from Clement Kusoi in Sunyani, who says, I strongly agree with your panel. Public money that found its way into private pockets must be coughed out miserably. It appears many Ghanaians are now begging to belong to their own country. Basic necessities such as food, clothing, and shelter cannot be met by many. It's a shame that very old men like Akufo-Addo think about their children and grandchildren only, throwing the rest to the dogs. We press involvement now, and the idea to involve the bigger minds and not relatives. Ghana can go far. Let's put our fingers crossed and work harder. Thank you for that comment. This one says the ministries announced are appreciated, but yes, still, why not merge transport to highways or roads or to roads ministries? That's Kobla in Kokwe. There's also this ones I believe President Mahama will succeed and leave a very nice legacy before going out. I'm watching live from Gomwa, Takwa. Special greetings to Uncle Pratt. This one says, SENA, please tell the people of Burkina Faso that when next time they release their leader to us, we will take him away from them. We love Traore. Traore, that's his name, Marcelino from Texas, sent that. Always investigation. Yet my NDC party can arrest and prosecute MPP public holders. Yet they find all means to prosecute NDC. Look at what they did to Chachu. Marcelino sent that from Teshi. This one says, for your information, the protocols of presidential visits or invitation starts even before the guest arrives. From the aircraft level of flight, nails and qualifications or ranks of the flying crew, who will be armed, caliber of weapon, amount of rounds, etc. Please, it is good to ask questions, but at the same time, we must be ready to learn what hitherto we do not know. Thank you for that comment. Okay, there's this one which is, okay, I can confidently inform Solomon so that there was prior discussion and agreement by both Ghanaian and Burkinabe security on the issue of Sidam. Regards to Comrade Pratt, thank you for sending that comment. Salifo and Ashaleboshi send that comment. So, yes.
Part of the presidential SENA, you see, propaganda is a powerful tool in politics. And if you are a political party or government and you want to succeed, one of the areas that you must invest heavily in is how to deal with issues of propaganda. The outgone government, and for that matter, the new patriotic party, obviously in opposition, will not be happy. And so it must find a way, a means of brandishing this government as an incompetent one. Remember the last time President Mahama was in power, that word, incompetence, was what got him out. Everywhere, even a child born today started saying incompetence, incompetence. What was he accused of? He was accused of having led this country through almost 4 years of what? Doomsday. And so, in the days leading to the elections, the new patriotic party said, when John Mahama becomes the president, Doomsday would return. And let me say to Comrade Mutala that the NPP knew it was losing election as far back as February, as confirmed by Nana Kumia. So this is a deliberate thing they have done. And the people of this country must not allow this to go unpunished. And when I say the people of this country, we elected President Mahama. And so he has to act. You see, you were supposed to do or conduct maintenance as far back as October 2024. You decided to defer it. What was the reason? What was the rationale behind it? It was to save your face. That you were going through, the country was going through doomsday, which would have led you to a heavy defeat. I am even surprised that the party had 41.75%. I'm still at a loss as to how 41% of the population thought they were doing well, when indeed nothing was happening right. They deferred it. And even in the instead of preparing after losing the elections to, as it were, order crude into this country, they refused. At the transition meetings that they held with the incoming administration, they assured them. So someone was telling me that they were even surprised that the incoming administration believed what they were saying. These people that have been lying through their teeth, they told you that they were going to import crude and you believe them. So it's a setup. They have set this administration for failure. And believe me, now that the media landscape largely tilts towards the new patriotic party, should we experience any load shedding, they will run it. They will run with it, take it from me. I listened to my own friend Osu Bempa after the electoral defeat on the 8th of December. Live show saying that there will be doomsday because there is no gas. Openly, what did he see? You read the statement made by the former Minister of Energy, Herbert Krapper, and you will begin to understand why we are where we are. 5 hours of what? Crude. So that when you enter into the doomsday arena, then they begin to come at you. The same thing with the educational sector. Secondary schools. Remember, before this administration took over, Charles had warned that schools must not be reopened. They said, no, you have to be reopened. It's a setup, it's a trap. You go in there will not be food, people will begin to complain. And this country that we are in, once people complain for 3 months, they forget about what the previous administration did. And they will turn the heat on you. That is why you must let people answer for their deeds. Because if you look at this whole thing, there is an element of willfully causing financial loss to the state. You know why? WAPCO is saying that, yes, they could defer even their maintenance to a later date. But that would mean that the workers that they have sent to the field to carry out the maintenance, the country will be paying them in spite of them not working. That would mean we causing financial loss to the state. And who occasioned that, or whose actions and inactions led to this? Would it not be the previous administration? That's why people must be made to answer for it. Every issue the past administration raises, this government must be able to counter with the fact, the truth, not lies. Let the Ghanaian people understand whatever is going on. Because believe you me, 4 years is not that long a period. Already we have done about a week out of it. Is that not the case? Moves faster than anything. Speed of light. And you know that governance is not, it's a difficult business. So I like it when the NDC, the new administration, decided to call all stakeholders to quickly find solutions to it. And now we have been told that we will need about $1.2 billion worth of crude for Accra alone. Hey, these experts were from this figure. 1.2 billion needed for crude only in Accra. Dollars. SENA, if we don't take care, this technocrats we have, it will sell this country one fine morning, and all of us will be in state. The new administration must do a proper auditing of all the various sectors, because they have set traps in all the sectors. All the sectors, they have set trap, so that you fall into it. There are people are still holding on to the economy. They are occupying all the sensitive and strategic positions. They have the financial muscles. So it's a difficult thing. You need to sit down, strategically think through what they left behind to be able to weave your way out of the traps that they have for you. Else it's not going to be easy for anyone. If there is a need for a load shedding, the government must quickly come out, give us a timetable, because whether you like it or not, you are in power now, so that the Ghanaian is fully aware the challenges that lies ahead and how you intend to deal with it. If there is a way that they can also talk to the WAPCO people for them to defer their maintenance till such a time that crude will be available, because
until that's what they want to do.
That's what they want to do. Yes, because the point is that it doesn't take a day to order crude for it to get here. Minimum, it will take about 3 weeks. And when it comes, you have to treat it before it can be given to all these plants. And you see the interesting thing. A government that was talking about excess capacity. Now, that all of a sudden, that phrase or that terminology is out of the equation. It means Ghanaians were treated to bad governance by President Akufo-Addo and his team. Never again. I trust that President Mahama will be able to find solutions to this, and I believe that technocrats at all various institutions must help him. You see, it is not in the interest of any Ghanaian that an administration will come and your wish is that you feel. It must never be your prayer, because if you like it, if it is left with only one beer, club beer, in this country, and the president wants to drink it, it will be given to him. So why must you pray that he fails? It must be your prayer that anybody that leads this country governs according to the dictates of the Constitution and the plan that he gave to you, and succeeds, you back him. Where he needs to be called out, you call him out. But it must never be that you wait that he fails so that you come. Either that it will not work. And we must also not restrict it only to the politicians. What were the advice that were given by these technocrats to the president? Is there any information available that can be shared that suggests that Greco, for instance, warned government, that WAPCO, for instance, warned government that if you fail to do this maintenance at this time, it will create problems today. The last time I was listening to the Greco official who was granting interview, he decided to swerve the issue of whether or not the maintenance was due in October. Yes, there was supposed to be a maintenance, but it didn't come. No. You know very well that it was supposed to take place in October so that we would be free, but he decided to push the matter. The same thing with SETA, what's the name? College of Education Teachers. When they embarked on strike last year, I came to this studio and said that they were a manner they had hurriedly, because they had been in the house for almost 2 months. So I said, if you have been in the house for 2 months, then you must make sure that you get whatever you want. Because when you return back to the classroom, under the pretext the government says it's going to solve your problem, and you fail to take what belongs to you, and later come back and tell us that you're going on strike, some of us will not be happy with you. They convinced them, they made them to go back. None of the things they promised them, they were able to do. So they are now back on strike. Then it is this administration's headache. That is why they have to do that thorough investigation. Things have gone on. Oh. Hey, this country, I believe we must go and do a proper audit of all those that are in Nsawam. Calculate the total value of the crime that they have committed, and juxtapose it with what these people have done, and you will see that we have rather wrong people in Nsawam. The proper people that must be in Nsawam are the ones chilling in our cities. They are chilling everywhere. I don't envy this administration. I'll end it.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few more comments from our listeners. If you're joining us, we are talking about power crisis ahead. It's not a question. It's a statement, because there are many issues ahead. This is just one small matter that they are working to deal with. Well, in the meantime, this is Stephen Penn, who says the proverb that it is only when the frog dies that you will know his full length. Hence, we know how wicked Nana Addo was as president, while His Excellency John Dramani Mahama left 6 weeks strategic oil reserves. Nana Addo left 5 hours of oil to power our generation plans. No wonder the MPP campaigned, a vote for John Mahama is a vote for Dumso. God save Ghana. Nana, bye-bye. Oh. That's Stephen Peng Inwa who sent that one. Joseph says, Senator, the MPP is a wicked party. Thank God the people of Ghana rejected them out. Boss was supposed to have strategic stock, which would have taken us 6 months in such crisis. Thank you. This one is from Venu Kumasi. Says, instead of the MPP government to work on themselves, they rather hold meetings and plan on how to bring the effort of the GM administration down. They will use some greedy media houses to promote lies against GM government. The only thing they are good at is evil plans to destroy this country, Ghana. But God will save us and we will be better again. Thank you, Venu, for sending that comment. This one, I would like it so much if roads and highways ministries are merged with transport ministry to create room for any other ministry. As that Papa sent that from is it Bombola? There's this one says, please, I know GM will perform better than any president in Africa. Moreover, for the sports ministry, he says Neil Antivanapo is the best sports minister in the history of Ghana sports, because he's incorruptible and hardworking, also a straightforward person, and is the reason why we have been benefiting from the boxing arena. We are all proud of. Kwame Jiwanusi of Youth Platform Africa sent that one. This one says, I agree with Solomon 100%. Just yesterday, our lights went off about 10 times, and today, about 5 times and counting. I believe they are doing this to sabotage His Excellency John Dramani Mahama in NDC. From Abdul Hafiz in Yendi, who is joining us. This one says, Solo, you are good, but you are damaging our party MPP too much. Please leave us alone so we can rebuild the MPP. It doesn't come.
I'm not with the MPP, please. Have I come here to damage MPP?
Well, if you join us, thank you very much for those comments. Keep them coming.
But have I come here to damage MPP?
But he is the one who is listening. That's his observation. That is observation.
He has been damaging NDC and the movement for change. Have I complained?
Well, this issue, it's a bit challenging to discuss, and the only conclusion you would come to is that of a sabotage. Look, elections happened on the 7th of December. That was the day election happened, and we got to know results after some hours. I mean, they even claimed they had the results earlier than any other person, for that matter. The former vice president came out to concede defeat. The issue is, from that time to the 7th of January, is a matter of a month. Our strategic stock of oil should go beyond a month, right? So this issue shouldn't have occurred in the first place. It couldn't also have been a challenge with finance, when in fact the former president had just said at the SENA that Ghana is not broke. On top of that, we had instituted the cash waterfall mechanism, where we know that whatever receipts comes in are distributed according to a certain structure to all the energy operators, and therefore they should have money to pay for their debts or their fuel that they've been buying. So you cannot say, if I am supposed to believe what the president said at the SENA, the former president said at the SENA, that Ghana wasn't broke. And knowing the mechanism in place to ensure that there is availability of funds for the operators to ensure that power did not go off. Again, when we say Dumsor is back, I mean, prior to elections, we were experiencing Dumsor. So I don't really, in my office, for instance, there was no day that power will not go off. I'd most times turn on the genset. And so for me, I was experiencing Dumsor. So it's not a new thing for some of the newspapers to say that Dumsor is back. Dumsor, we are living with it on a daily basis. It got to a point we were even asking for a timetable. So for me, why all of a sudden the media space is like, Dumsor is back? We are living every day with Dumsor. Was the challenge that someone failed to order for fuel when they should have ordered for fuel? What were the arrangements? Because, like it has been said, it's not like me taking my car to the filling station and saying, give me fuel this much, this is my money. These fuel contracts sometimes spans for a very lengthy period. So was someone supposed to renew something, or did someone deliberately ordered or altered whatever arrangement we had with our suppliers? Yes, it has to be investigated, because this is not against the coming administration. This was done, if it was deliberate, it was done, it was a crime committed against the people of Ghana, and not the incoming president. Not at all. I differ from the point people are trying to push, that it is to make President Mahama look bad. Man, it will hurt my pocket as well. What about that? Now, this urgent arrangement may cost more than it may have cost us. And if it is given back to us to pay, what have you done? I think that, yes, as long as we have issues with our economy and all that, in terms of finances and all that, I believe that, yes, there may be challenges on and off, but it shouldn't be in this style, not at all. Again, the issue with what maintenance to be done and the reason for it not being done and whatever is neither here or there. It's not something we should even entertain. Is it a direct feed? The gas we received, is it a direct feed that we do not have a reservoir for it before feeding into the generators we have? And the pipes are a direct feed, so we cannot store gas enough to ensure that the period of maintenance is not affected. I mean, which energy or which generator set are we using that do not have excess capacity to ensure that when maintenance of those machines are being done, they are still able to generate sufficient energy for us? All of the power operators that we have those mechanisms in place. So again, it cannot be an excuse that maintenance was supposed to be done at some point. So what are we saying? That anytime there will be a maintenance of those facilities, we would have to experience doomsday? No, it doesn't happen that way. So that also cannot be an excuse. If it is a sabotage, it is a sabotage against the people of Ghana, and that we must make clear. Yes, you want the incoming administration to look bad, but to look bad for what? They have only been in government for how many days? You can't blame them for the shortage of fuel when you were supposed to do it. So if it happens that somebody deliberately did not do his job, there again, we are being told that they should not be sacked or they should not resign because the influence of power is too much. And maybe this second look at our 1992 constitution should be something that we should take seriously, because we cannot joke with power, energy, not at all. We cannot. In fact, if you are looking at national security, that is one of the things you may have to look at. So for someone to deliberately put our national security in jeopardy, then the person, aside being wicked, is working against Ghana. And that cannot be entertained. I mean, the facts should be out. The facts should be transparent to all. We should know what exactly happened, who did not act right, and those who have to be punished should be punished for it. I think it's as simple as that.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I come to Mr. Pratt, just a few comments. Sami, okay, there's Musa Batua who is joining us all the way from Asawasi. Musa Batua says, President Mahama has once again demonstrated exemplary leadership by initiating immediate investigation into the tragic deaths during the 2020 and 2024 elections. This bold step shows his unwavering commitment to justice and accountability. Ensuring that those responsible are brought to justice is not only a step in the right direction, but a crucial move to safeguard our democracy. Well done, Mr. President. Hashtag Justice for All. That's coming from Musa Abatwa. There's also this one from Paul Not Ola says, if the electricity situation is really a sabotage, the government must investigate and prosecute those behind such reckless and devilish acts. Also, causing financial loss to the state must be investigated and prosecuted where culpability is established. Paul, thank you very much. This one says, MPP's communicators have always lied and they had always assumed Ghanaians don't know who they are. Thank God we have taken Ghana from their grip. NDC will reset the country and keep it going, and everyone will see the difference. Let Ora do a thorough investigation and expose the thievery and state capture. MPP has lost big and gone on a journey of no return. Teacher Xavier Fiati sent that one. This one says, okay, they actually sent a video. Martin Inwa. Martin, thank you very much for the video. Some more. This one says, I am away from Aquatim. Okay, please, I believe the past MPP administration is just wicked and I don't have the interest of Ghanaian at heart. What will a government that says they have the knowledge to govern leave behind just 5 hours of power? MPP have chopped all the money in the system. Please tell Honorable Muntala that if they don't go after this MPP people, we will come after the NDC. Thank you very much for sending that comment. Prince Henry in Koforidua says, President John Mahama has proven to be in action with his appointment and direction so far. I will ask from Ghanaians, all I will ask from Ghanaians is to support him to deliver and give us the Ghana we desire. You must be a criminal to be afraid of the oral team. I will humbly urge our youth who are ransacking offices to stop and follow the due process so that we can all have the Ghana we want. The future is pregnant and bright. Prince Harry, thank you for that comment you sent to us. Dr. Percy says, regarding the planned crisis in the power sector, John Jinapo of the NDC transition team and now nominee for Energy Minister says their team relied on outgoing MPP's assurances. Really? No wonder the MPP Deputy Minister for the sector came out with glee to accuse our new rulers of incompetence. It is much worse. The recurrent political amateurishness, naivety of the NDC in relation to MPP astonishes me each time. The MPP UPNLM political tradition is congenitally incapable of being truthful. Their entire history since foundation in 1954 bears this out. It is amazing that over the past 3 and more decades of dealing with MPP, the NDC has not learned the simple truth. So it was criminal for NDC to rely on MPP assurances, especially so when MPP was publicly boasting about having kept the lights on for the past 8 years, whilst warning that John Mahama will bring back Dumso. What you do with MPP always is to check, double check, then check again to confirm the truth. Acting on the basis of MPP's good faith on any matter should never be part of any equation. That's coming from Dr. David Percy. There's Masol Akpable in Ayawaso East constituency. Let it be on record that President Mahama left the then new government of Akufo-Addo and Bawumia 6 months of light, but in the other way around, Akufo-Addo left him 5 hours of light. So his people can use that as a vile propaganda to say it is JM who brought Dumso, but they will fail, and Ghanaians will make sure they stay in opposition for a very long time as well. Thank you. Idi Gideon Mutari also sent this. Idi says, isn't it ironical to think that one should use fewer days in office as president to solve problems? The MPP used 8 years to create or destroy. Ghanaians must appreciate the fact that the past MPP government and Nanado and Bawumia never had Ghana at heart, but for their selfish partisan parochial gains, and the Ghanaian public will get to know them by their nature and how wicked they are. I urge all and sundry to rally our support to the new administration under JDM to succeed in leading us to building the better Ghana we all want together. There's Nana, who says, Nana, I don't know whether the PNDC rules still persist. The chief directors and directors were as responsible to their ministries as political appointees. If so, investigations into any malfeasance at the civil service should be equally directed to all civil servants, no matter their positions. For example, crude oil importation is not done by politicians, but by technocrats. Thank you. Seidu says, By law, all handing over notes must be deposited with the Administrator General, latest by the end of September. What then happens to all government transactions between October and December? How does the government account for it? I believe that it will be in order to investigate all government transactions between October and December 2024 to establish exactly the decision taken by the outgone government in areas of energy and education that led to the crisis we face in these sectors. That's coming from Seidu. Kobnaidu says, good morning. Why are people worried about this? I am sure it was cleared by protocol and probably ensured that the magazine was removed, etc. By the way, who will carry a sidearm with the intent of assassinating another head of state? All presidents who have been shot are not at close range, even Anwar Sadat. Policy analysis indeed. We like to major in the minors. That's coming from Kobna Idu. Well, I will take the thoughts of Mr. Pratt on the power crisis ahead.
Look, this country has been in the grips of a power crisis for several decades. And I think that we need to emphasize that point. The crisis in our energy sector actually began with the overthrow of the Nkrumah government by the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America and its collaborators of the Ghana Armed Forces, with the active support of the top hierarchy of the so-called Dankwa Buzia tradition. Now, you would understand that when plans were being made and negotiations had started for the construction of the Akosombo Dam, some of these elements tried to sabotage it and to prevent Ghana from getting the resources it needed to build the Akosombo Dam. They were defeated, and the Nkrumah government got the necessary resources to construct the Akosombo Dam. Now, if you read the 7-year development program, that 7-year development program, we say that after the construction of the Akosombo hydroelectric project, 2 more such projects will be constructed, Pong and Bui. Okay. Now, in addition to Pong and Bui, we were also to build what was described in the 7-year development plan as mini hydro projects. Okay. So after the overthrow of the Nkrumah government, and then also we're also exploring the possibility of building a nuclear plant for the generation of electricity. And then even beyond the possibility of a nuclear plant, we're also considering green energy as part of the mix. Now, after the 1966 coup, the Buzia government actually brought in the Buzia government, and when I say the Buzia government actually continued from the National Liberation Council all the way up to the Progress Party, because he was a political advisor to the National Liberation Council and was active in the work of the National Liberation Council. Brought in an expert from England who came and said that the Akosombo was generating more power than we needed, and therefore there was no need for us to generate other sources of power. Okay. By February 24, 1966, Russian engineers were on site. The construction of the Bui Dam project had started. They stopped it. You understand? And then, so between 1966 and the time that Achampo constructed the Pong hydroelectric project, nothing was done about energy. Okay? The Bui Dam was actually started in the Kufuor administration. So this led to a situation where there was a huge gap which needed to be filled. That is the genesis of the energy crisis in Ghana. If the 7-year development program, what it sought to do, had been allowed, we would not have had this energy crisis to start with. Now, SENA, you see, the crisis is not just about the availability of power or non-availability of power. It's also about cost of energy. Now, if you're looking at cost, the last time I saw the cost cost analysis, hydro projects like Akosombo cost maximum of 3 cents per unit. 3 cents maximum. It can cost up to 2.5 cents and so on per unit. Now, thermal generation can cost us between 12 and 20 cents per unit. Do you see the gap? Thermal generation is way, way more expensive. And the more expensive energy you use in your industry, the less competitive you become. And that perhaps also accounts for the high electricity costs that our people are paying and so on. But then, since the Kufuor administration where Bui Dam was built, and Bui Dam doesn't produce a lot of power anyway, and the Mahama administration where a lot was done in order to improve the power situation, we have now been saddled with a new problem, which is paying for the power that the independent power producers have produced. And Master, it has become so problematic that actually Asogli had to close down because it was hitting bankruptcy. The government was not paying it, for the power that it was supplying. And this was way back. This is about a year ago. 2 years ago, Asogli started raising the alarm and so on. Asogli had to shut down subsequently because government could not find the resources to pay for the energy it was generating. Now thereafter, other independent power producers have indicated that they are not going to supply power. They don't have the means to supply power if they are not going to be able to pay them and so on. Now it is interesting that a country which is not able to pay for power, the power that it is consuming, its president will give a State of the Nation address in which he announces boldly that the country is not broke. You can't even pay for power. And in the same State of the Nation address, I heard former President Akufo-Addo say that when they came into office, the electricity power, the energy sector was indebted to the tune of $2.5 billion. And that they are leaving office with the same level of debt, and therefore they have succeeded. SENA. He said this, he himself, in the State of the Nation address, and I'm sure that he didn't write it alone, all his experts and so on contributed to writing the State of the Nation address. It went through several reviews, and finally they were satisfied that they have a State of the Nation address that they can present to the people of Ghana. And they came, and he read it with a smile on his face. Then when we came, there was a debt of 2.5 billion. We are leaving, the debt is still there. So we have done very well. Incredible. And that's part of the problem. Now, I recall that every time there has been a transition, our heads of states have had to rush to Nigeria to go and make emergency arrangements for the supply of oil. Otherwise, the plants will shut down. And I was thinking that we have learnt the important lessons and that it won't happen again. Now, we are in the same situation. Indeed, if you read the newspaper, some say that we have power supply. We can have power supply for a maximum of 5 days. I'm sure you've read it. Yes. Some say 10 days. Some say 2 weeks and so on. So I'm not too sure how long this power supply would last. But let's say that even if it's for a month, that's a crisis situation. And the reason is that something to do with the West Africa gas pipeline is being rehabilitated, and therefore we need to bring in fuel oils to be able to power the plants and so on. And that we have not ordered. Master, we have not ordered. We haven't ordered the fuel that we need to power the plants. It's incredible, you know. I have personally spoken to the authorities of a friendly country, which is actually saying that, look, if we make a commitment within 3 days, they'll start loading and to supply. Even they are not even asking us for payment and so on. They realize that Ghana is in crisis. They want to help. They'll supply. We can talk about payment and other things later. And I've actually passed this information on to John Jinapo and other relevant authorities and so on. So I'm saying that, look, if there are countries which have this goodwill towards us, why didn't we place the order? You know, why did we have to wait till this crisis and then we are jumping around and so on? And sometimes when I look at the facts, I'm inclined to believe, like the other panelists, that somebody was playing some hanky-panky game. Somebody wanted to create a certain situation and so on. I'm inclined to believe that. You understand? And maybe this would explain why these NPP communicators constantly were saying that if you vote for Mahama, you are voting for Doomsday. They probably knew what they were doing. Probably they knew what they were doing, and so they were so confident. If you vote for Mahama, you are voting for Doomsday and so on. Unfortunately for them, the problem has been tackled so seriously by the incoming administration that I'm not expecting any major headache. In fact, I had a conversation with Mr. John Jinapo, the incoming Minister of Energy. And I was making him aware of some of the alternatives which were available and so on. And he said, no, those alternatives are interesting and so on. But the situation is so urgent that we cannot order crude from faraway places. It has to be close. So in our circumstances, Nigeria is the only option, you know. And Nigeria, they have to be dealing with the government of Nigeria and so on. Somehow, President John Dramani Mahama has excellent working relations with all of the Nigerian leaders. And everybody knows that for a fact. And I'm confident that he'll be able to exploit these excellent relations he has with Tinubu, with Obasanjo, with Goodluck Jonathan and others, to make an arrangement which will save us from this looming crisis. And that sooner than later, this crisis will be averted. And if this crisis is averted, all of those people who were moving from radio station to radio station, television station to television station, shouting, if you vote for Mahama, you vote for Doomsday and so on, they will be so hugely embarrassed by their recklessness and utter, okay, it's it is
we
fine.
got it.
But what is happening to our crude itself? We are also a debt exporter of crude. So we may have to look at it from a
I'm not an expert.
I think because
I'm
you don't
not
have
an
refineries.
expert. I'm not an expert. Huh? But I don't think that it is all crude which is suitable for power generation. I know that they are looking for specific. I don't know whether we produce that or we don't produce that. That's beyond my competence.
And even the cost, if we were to have our own refinery that is actively working, because sometimes the cost to refine and to use them to power generators may be more expensive than even buying. It's possible, yeah.
So whatever it is, the problem appears to be in good hands.
Yeah.
And there appears to be some solution to the problem. I think we should take our energy matters seriously. You understand? And so far, President John Mahama has had a good start. My only worry, and it's a very deep worry, is that in these discussions, President Mahama tells us that the privatization of the distribution of power is on the table. How did it come on the table? How did that come on the table? Look at the history of privatization of ECG. Look at how it has been resisted. I mean, even the Akufo-Addo government tried to privatize ECG, and it was heavily resisted. You understand? So I don't know who put it on the table, how it came back on the table. My advice is that please quickly take it off the table. Because it is not something we are ready to countenance at all. The history of privatization in this country is clear. It has led from disaster to disaster, no matter the sector which has been privatized. And I hope that if it is indeed on the table, President John Dramani Mahama will have the courage to take it off the table very quickly. It's not in our interest.
Well, because we're still on the fly, I have 2 minutes more to go. On this matter, in fact, we're going to raise it. And this is the statement that was issued to the Embassy of Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Yeah. Yeah. But just for the information of the public, this
matter will come up again next week.
It will come up again. You are confident.
Whatever it is, it has to come up again. This is one of the most reckless foreign policy moves that any government has made in Ghana. Perhaps it comes only close to the support that the Busia government gave to the apartheid regime in South Africa in 1969 or 1970.
How about the US
leading to the split in the Progress Party government. You know, J.H. Mensah opposed that, and there was a split in that government. I think Victor Usu, opposed that, and there was a split in that government. This decision to suspend diplomatic relations with the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic is at that level. It's so reckless, it's unbelievable. And I believe that there will be repercussions in the coming days. The Mahama administration has to take a decision as to whether it's going along with it or not. Either way, it will come back for discussion. Okay? So, let's wait.
I think also when this the former administration, they did that just hours before President Mahama was sworn in.
I mean, the disrespect, the sheer disrespect. 2 hours before leaving office. Why was he in a hurry to do that?
It was just to drive a wedge between President Mahama and the other countries within the West Africa sub-region, within the continent of Africa.
Well, we should have seen it coming. Just the same day he was reading the SENA, he was paying the Eurobond.
Yes, it was deliberate.
So we should have seen it coming.
I thought no matter what reasons they have, they could have left it to the incoming government to say that, look, this were the factors we considered and this was the decision we're going to take. Leave it to the incoming administration to decide whether they want to go on that tangent or not. But for you to do that just 2 hours before President Mahama was sworn in, it was deliberate. Just to draw a wedge between President Mahama and other heads of state. Mind you, the Sahrawi African Republic, they are also supported by many countries, not just in Africa. Many countries agree with their position, both within Africa and the
Master, Morocco.
Yes.
You know, when Morocco came back to join the AU, it had to sign that document which proclaimed the AU as the AU as the successor to OAU. And that document starts by we, the following countries, have agreed. So it was in alphabetical order. So if you get to S, Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. And Morocco signed without raising any objection. So by that very act, Morocco recognized the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. Morocco itself recognized by that very act the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. So how can there is no serious African capital that you will go to and you won't find an embassy for Morocco and an embassy for the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. You go to South Africa, the 2 countries have diplomatic missions there. You go to Zimbabwe, you go to Lagos, everywhere. Where is this coming from? This is a country recognized by the AU, recognized by the UN, and you sit in your...
Interesting information on how this happened, but I'm still getting that information, how that letter was put together in the wee hours of the administration. Anyway, but in the meantime, we said even at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and in the last days, they employed 100 people and made sure they integrated them before leaving power. So very interesting things happened during that period.
A lot of the ministries and agencies, they did promotion. They should all be revoked.
There were
They should
some
all be
huge
revoked.
contracts that has.
Works in housing about 5 million Ghana
They've
cedis
been
contract.
fighting over.
$.
$5 million contract. 12 days after the elections.
Yes, I saw the letter.
No, 12 days before the swearing in. $5 million contract.
Well, let me say a big thank you to Comrade
Revoke
Kwesi
all of them.
Prajina, who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed is Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. We are still waiting the appointment. Anyway, and now promoted to director.
He's waiting.
I mean, Senna, you are lobbying for appointment.
I'm telling you.
You gave me an appointment.
And I never knew when they were asking.
Senna, why are you lobbying for appointment?
I'm not lobbying for any appointment.
But he deserves an appointment. He deserves an appointment. They have to give him an appointment. They are very good people that work tirelessly for this administration. But they work for John Mahama. John Mahama is going to engage them.
So
Everybody who works
for John Mahama.
But somebody, they are also somebody. Somebody must get. So there's somebody.
I never knew that you could be promoted on Alhaji and Alhaji until today.
I'm so grateful.
When Sulu has been promoted to director level.
Yeah.
So director Solomon Owusu. Always nice to have you. And of course, nice to see me, Nia Boyanan, early this year. We're looking forward to a fantastic year, by the way. Anyway, thank you very much, as always, for watching us, for listening to us, and for commenting. We are always grateful to you. From the crew here at Pan-African Television, we wish that you have a very wonderful weekend and have a successful and fruitful week. We'll see you next week, Saturday.